Chapter 10 Sisters. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Lucy Burgoyne. Sisters by Ada Cambridge. Chapter 10 How she got into the room, the isolated big drawing room, which somebody else, who was aware of his arrival, had directed that he was to be shown into, Mary knew not, but she was there. He stood perfectly still, massive and inflexible to receive her, without approaching him or he her to shake hands, without looking at his face or anywhere near it. She perceived the adamantine set of lips, the cold gaze, more withering than fire, which informed her that he knew all, and she sank crouching into a chair, and hid her face. But her back was against the wall now. The coward stage was past. In the most desperately false position that a girl could occupy, she made no further attempt to run away from the truth, perhaps because she saw that it was useless. When he began, very politely, but with no beating about the bush, to say, "I dare say you are surprised to see me, Miss Pennycuick, but I was told, and since I came up here, I have been told again by several different persons, something that I want you to help me to understand." She jerked herself upright, and stopped him with a swift gesture, and the cry of, I know what you have been told, and I have nothing to say. I cannot contradict it." She was a piteous object, in her shaking anguish, but he looked at her, of course, without a scrap of pity. "Do you think you really know?" he questioned her, with cold gravity. "Perhaps I have been given an exaggerated version. I was in hopes that it was altogether an invention of Miss Francie's. I know of old that she is prone to make reckless statements." "Ah, Francie! She was kind enough to write me a long letter, to congratulate me on my promotion. She told me all the family news, and she said she asked me, but really I haven't the cheek to repeat her words." His cold face had become hot, and his manner agitated. "Go on," said she, calming under the perception that the worst had come utterly to the worst. "Well, if you will forgive me, she asked me, in effect, when I was coming to marry you, and why I had kept the engagement a secret so long." He paused, one dark red blush, to note the effect of so brutal a stroke. She said, meeting his eyes for the first time, "And you believed it at once, of me?" "No, Miss Pennycuick, I laughed. I said to myself, 'Here is another of Miss Francie's mare's nests.' But when I read on, she told me so many things, they were incredible. But still I felt I had to sift the matter, and since I came up today, other people, I've been to Five Creeks and had a talk with Jim Urquhart. Now, I don't know what to think. At least, there is but one thing that I can think." The chair she had taken had a high back, and against this she laid her head, as if too weary to support it. Lack of sleep and appetite had paled her florid colour to a sickly hue, and she looked wan and languid as a dying woman. But still he did not pity her, as he must have done had her face been half as beautiful as Deb's or Francie's. "Miss Pennycuick," he continued, as she kept silence, "I want to get the hang of this thing. Will you tell me straight, yes or no? Have you been giving it out that I left Redford 2 years ago engaged to you?" Her first impulse was to cry out, "Oh no, no, not quite so bad as that," but on second thoughts, she said, "Yes, practically." Sudden rage seemed to seize him. He sat up, he crossed his knees, he uncrossed them, he twisted this way and that, He muttered, "Good God!" as if the pious ejaculation had referred to the other person, and his stare at her was cruel. But I have been racking my brains to remember anything. Surely I never gave you. I am perfectly convinced. I have the best reason for being absolutely certain that I could not have given you." "Never," she broke in. "Of course not. It was all my own invention." "You admit it? Thank you. You formally relieve me of the imputation I have so long lain under without knowing it, of having run away from my duty." She said lifelessly, "We thought you were dead." "Ah, I see. You thought it didn't matter what you said of a dead man. But dead men's characters should be all the more sacred because they cannot defend them. I should be sorry indeed to leave behind me such a reputation as I seem to have hereabouts, though, indeed, a man is very helpless in these cases. He is at a hopeless disadvantage when a woman is his traducer. I can see that Jim Urquhart will never be a friend of mine again, whatever happens." "He shall know the truth. Everybody shall know the truth," said Mary. "How can everybody know the truth? Only by my own affidavit, and that would not be believed. Besides, it is not for me to deny, at the cost of branding a lady a liar." It was the straight word, regardless of manners, with this sea bred man. "You need not. I know how to do it so that people will believe. I am going to write a letter to the newspaper, a plain statement, that will fully exonerate you." He nearly jumped out of his chair with the fright she gave him. "You will do nothing so ridiculous!" he exclaimed angrily. "It is the only way," said she, "the only way to make sure." "If you do," he menaced her, "I shall simply write another for the next issue to flatly contradict you." "Then you would be a liar." "That doesn't matter in the least. I must be a man first. I am not going to let you ruin yourself." "Ah, that is done already. Nothing can make it worse for me." He looked at her, taking in the words, in some sort understanding them. She lifted her eyes to look at him, and what he saw behind the look went to his kindly heart. He felt for her for the first time. "May I go now?" she whispered. His answer was to move to a seat beside her. "I wish you would tell me," he said, in more humane tones, "how you came to do it. I would like to understand, and I can't, for the life of me. You must have had some reason. Did I do anything unknowing?" She shook her head hopelessly. "No, you were only kind and good, as you would have been to anyone." "Kind and good? Rubbish! It was you, all of you, who were kind and good. Oh, I don't forget what you did for me, and never shall. I feel" it was the very feeling that had so oppressed him in the case of the lady at Sandridge "under a load of obligation to you that I can never hope to discharge. But still though, I trust I showed some of the gratitude I felt. I cannot remember how I came to give you the idea. I must have done something, I suppose. One is a blundering fool without knowing it." "No," she protested. "No. It was my own idea entirely. But I can't reconcile that with your character, Miss Pennycuick." "Nor can I," she laughed bitterly. "There's a mystery somewhere. Did anyone tell you anything? Did Miss Frances put constructions on innocent appearances? Did " "No," Mary resolutely stopped him. "It is good of you to try to make excuses, but there is no excuse for me none. Francie only said what she knew. I let them believe you were my lover. I am 27. I never had one, and oh, I thought that, at least, you might be mine when you were dead. I did not mean to be a liar, as you called me. Yes, that is